Okay, we are live from the Downingtown compound. I decided to go outdoors today because, look, it's fantastic. It's so beautiful. And we're lucky. We're very lucky. I've spent the last couple days texting back and forth and talking to my old friend, Scott Para, who has had quite a couple of days. His 50th birthday was Sunday, believe it or not. And this is for you, buddy. I dug it out, one of my favorite t-shirts anyway. Scott is the head basketball coach at Rice in Houston, a terrific school in Houston. And he may have lost his home. He's not really sure yet. He's not positive, but it looks to be that way. Just a horrific tropical storm, as you all know. And it sucks. The whole thing sucks. Anyway, we're going to try to get beyond that and have a little fun. Incidentally, the remnants of that tropical storm, though it's completely trivial in comparison to what Houston has dealt with, I talked to my buddy, the meteorologist John Neese at Penn State today. And he seems to think the remnants of that thing might be over the top of us on Saturday for the game against Akron, the big opener. Exactly how much rain or where it's going to be, how much progress is made is kind of up for conjecture at this point. We don't know. Anyway, on to questions. I don't think you have to worry about, by the way, that it's going to be nearly as strong as it was down in the Gulf. Once storms get over dry land, they dissipate quite quickly, and that was the whole problem with Harvey, is that it just sat there on the Gulf and used the Gulf of Mexico as kind of a tap and just threw rain sitting in the same place right up on the coast in southeast Texas, and they're still dealing with it. It's horrific. Anyway, we can deal with a little rain because that's all it's going to be here. To questions. Best team I've covered on the field? Yes. That's from JC Corrigan. Absolutely it is. And last year was the most exciting. You'll never be able to duplicate that season, I don't think. But the funny thing about this team is last year they were 11-3. I picked them 10-2 this year against my cynical old bastard tendencies. Simply because I think they understand and embrace the challenge that's ahead for them. And it's a big challenge. I mean, the schedule, the road schedule, especially in the Big Ten, well, it's only in the Big Ten, but at Iowa, at Northwestern, at Ohio State, at Michigan State, at Maryland, there's no tap-ins on that schedule. And as I pointed out in a column that's going to run Friday, 4 of those teams, they played last year and lost to Penn State in embarrassing fashion one way or the other. Ohio State was a 19-point favorite, beat them. The other 3 teams, they routed them. Michigan State, Maryland, and Iowa, all big routs in State College. They're going to be loaded for bear against this team, but I think the Nittany Lions know it. And then you've got at Northwestern, which is the second road trip of the year, who was picked by many and by me as the second best team in the West, and they have a chance to win it with a veteran quarterback. So, challenging season, but I think these guys are being raised up to a level where they know the challenge is there, and they don't care. They're ready for it, and they want to be really, really good. What do you look for in a game like Akron? What do you want to see? The main thing is nobody gets hurt. You remember the offensive line and the linebacker last year early. That's the main thing you want to see, and that's the thing the coaches want to see above anything else. They can accept anything else except a loss. Akron has a very good coaching staff full of a bunch of guys who've been around. Terry Bowden, of course, won the national. Well, he went undefeated in '93 at Auburn. They won 20 straight games before losing in '93 and '94. He's been around the Maypole a few times. And Chuck Amato, his defensive coordinator, who was a successful head coach for its time in the early aughts at North Carolina State, and was way back before that Terry's dad's, Bobby's right-hand man as a defensive coordinator. for 15 years at Florida State. They know what's going on, and they'll do the best with whatever they have to offer. So I expect them to mess around a little bit with Penn State's offensive line. Watch for this. Does Penn State's offensive line get push? And watch also the new center Connor McGovern replacing Brian Gaia. That's not an easy job. Center is kind of the communications hub for the offense. He's a very important guy. Not an easy job. Chuck Amato knows that. Chuck's 71. Watch to see if Akron's defense throws some garbage, some noise at Penn State to see what they do. A lot of stunts, maybe zone blitzes, overmanning the A gap, any sort of possible false pre-snap read to test that communication with Penn State. That's something you can watch away from the ball. What else do you want to see? Well, you want to see some sort of deep threat. DeAndre Hopkins kind of made a stir by replacing Saeed Blacknall on the depth chart at the Z wide receiver spot. And that means that either James Franklin's just trying to send a message, or he really just thinks that Tompkins has outworked Blacknall, who, of course, was suspended for the Rose Bowl. Then you've got Juwan Johnson, who has had a great camp. Irv Charles had a huge catch down the seam against Minnesota in the third quarter, and then next to nothing last year. Anyway, once Chris Godwin began making big plays last year deep, and Trace McSorley began finding all his receivers downfield, sometimes on broken plays, it made life a lot easier for everybody. That's an essential component of a big play offense. Is it kind of feeds on itself, like empties out the box, stretches the field, and that's what you want to do. So hopefully you'll see that against Akron. Of course, we don't know the conditions. We don't know how much rain it's going to be. The final thing is you want to see some young guys on defense and what they do, especially some get-off from the new defensive ends, and any impact maybe from a new cornerback we saw on the depth chart, who's just a true freshman out of Maryland. So Sharif Miller, Torrance Brown, Ryan Buchholz, what do they do on the edges? Can they speed rush against these slower MAC offensive tackles? But it's a veteran offensive line, so you got to watch for that. And then Tariq Castro-Fields out of the D.C. area, he beat out Lamont Wade, at least so far, in the cornerback hierarchy at second team. So Penn State beat out Maryland and even Alabama to get this kid. He is special. How he performs stands to impact not just the team, but recruiting, I think, in the DMV for years, which is such an important area. It always has been for Penn State, with Larry Johnson back years and years ago, basically supported the team and continues to be now. It is the one area of the Big Ten footprint that continues to be fertile as far as high school talent. And I think it's the most important area as far as Penn State fighting off Maryland. I know a lot of you don't take Maryland seriously and mock me for even suggesting that they're a Penn State rival. Trust me, DJ Durkin has done some very good recruiting down there. Greg Pickle will tell you that. And he can be a threat. So in that way, I think Tariq Castro-Fields is kind of a figurehead. And how he does, and how he does early, how he performs stands to impact not just the team, but recruiting down there for a long time. We'll see how that develops. Scott Still says, am I the only one that thinks McSorley could get the snot beat out of him if the O-line is leaky? Well, that's always true. But, you know, that offensive line wasn't great last year, and Limegrover put together, I mean, I think Matt Limegrover did the greatest job that any offensive line coach has ever done at Penn State last season. He had 9 different offensive linemen start on that team. He had 7 different starting lineups. And McSorley still managed to negotiate the situation back there, find some clean air to throw out of, and he never took the easy way out in running for 6 or 8, 10 yards, ejecting from the pocket. He kept his eyes downfield. So he did it last year. Whether he can keep healthy again, man, if he can survive that hit, that sandwich hit he took against Wisconsin, the kid's made out of rubber. I don't know that he can't survive anything. And, of course, we know he's a winner. He really is a winner. That's about it as far as I can tell. You mainly just want to stay healthy. against a team like Akron. You don't want any problems. First games are always sketchy and a little bit choppy in the way things go. You usually see a little more improvement the second week when people settle in, especially the young guys. So stay healthy, win the game. Those are the objectives, and hopefully we won't have too much rain. And another shout out to Houston. Scott, if you see this, buddy, we're pulling for you on all your rice owls. That's it from the Downingtown compound. Until next week on Wednesday. Adios.